The past 2 years in the real estate market have been bananas, especially in Northern Virginia. With so many variables, I want to answer some of the top real estate questions that I get on a daily basis. Hi, I'm Ginger Walker, the team lead of Give Back team of Coldwell Banker Elite, and welcome to this episode of Give, Work, Play, where I'm going to talk about everything living and giving in Northern Virginia. So in 2021, my team and I actually closed over $54 million in sales and helped over 100 families move into the Northern Virginia area. So I'd like to think I have a little bit of expertise on what it takes to win an offer and move into Northern Virginia. Or if you're looking to sell, how to successfully do that. So one of the top questions I get is, what is the traffic actually like in Northern Virginia? Because if you Google it, you're probably gonna see that Northern Virginia makes like the top 2, the top 5, or the top 10 lists on the worst traffic in America. And let me tell you, my friends, it can be difficult. But to answer the question, what is traffic like in Northern Virginia? Well, it really depends on when you're commuting and where you're commuting to. And where you're commuting to, what are the options you can take? So yes, you could take the hot lane, which is the high occupancy travel vehicle lane, where you can have a little transponder and you can pay as you go. Or if you have 3 people in the car, then it's free. Or you can take the metro, depending on where you live. You can take a bus. You could do what this thing is called slugging, which I talk about in another video. So what is traffic actually like? Well, it could take you an hour or it could take you 10 minutes. It totally depends on where you're going and when you're going there. So now let's get to some more common questions that we get on a daily basis. And for that, I'm going to bring in a special guest from the GBT, which is Give Back team. It is the beautiful, the wonderful Miss Lindsay Harrington.
Hi, everyone.
All right, Lindsay, so let's get to it. So one of the questions that we've gotten is, what should I do about visiting the towns? Like if I'm, for example, not from the area, should I visit the different towns of Northern Virginia before I decide to move here?
I would definitely recommend, taking at least a weekend trip out here and getting to drive around, look at the different areas and kind of feel which one you like the best.
So one of the other things though is if you can't be here, because we do help a lot of overseas clients, one of the things that we can do is send you other videos that we've done on some of the towns in Northern Virginia. So follow along and you can see some of the other videos, or we can actually do some FaceTime tours to give you an idea of what the areas are like.
Yeah.
I know you do quite a bit of that.
Oh yeah, we do it all the time.
So one other question that we get that's pretty common is, when is the best time to buy? So what do you see as a buyer's agent for the market looking like right now?
I think now is still a great time to buy. Interest rates are still at an all-time low. They are, slightly rising. We don't know what we'll see in the coming months, but right now it's still a great time to be a buyer.
All right, so another question that we get is, what about closing costs? So do you, as the buyer side, are you seeing that your clients are getting closing costs paid in this market?
Sadly, right now, we just aren't. Hopefully it is one thing we will start to see again in the future, but right now in spring 2022, it's not happening.
So one of the other questions that we get is, do I need to be pre-qualified to look at a house? And another question along that note is, do I need to be pre-approved?
We do always recommend that you are pre-qualified before going and looking at homes. Sometimes it is a requirement in this market to preview the home. But as well, just how quickly everything's moving, it's best that you already have a lender letter ready before we go see any homes, or you might miss out.
So now real quick, the difference between pre-qual and pre-approval, can you just tell us real quick what the difference is between the two?
So the difference between pre-qualification and your pre-approval is you get a pre-approval after it goes through underwriting. So typically at first when we're just out browsing, you're only pre-qualified.
Although some buyers do come with the pre-approval process, and that means that they've gotten more of their documentation into the lender. And the advantage of doing pre-approval, getting to that stage, is actually you could probably move a little bit faster in the buying process. So getting from point A to point B is actually a good thing. So if you can get to the pre-approval process, that's actually a thumbs up too. All right, so if I'm thinking of building new construction, do I need Lindsay Harrington, Realtor Extraordinaire, to help me? Yes or no?
We are always going to recommend that you do have an agent going through the new construction process with you, because we're going to be able to help you understand what you're actually signing. Sometimes these builders, they're not fully explaining everything that is in the details of the contract to you. So you definitely want an agent there on your side explaining what you're signing to you.
All right, so let's talk about VA loans. Is it harder to buy right now in this market with a VA loan?
Sometimes right now with a VA loan, it is a little bit harder getting your offer accepted, but as long as you still can be as competitive as possible, you still are going to be in a good place. And sometimes if you do have a military seller, they sometimes will gravitate more towards the VA loans and want to help you out. All right, Ginger, now I have some questions for you. How long will it take to buy a house in this current market?
So that's a great question. It really does depend on your financing or if you're paying cash. So a cash deal can actually close in a matter of a couple of days to a week. So that could be pretty quick. But if you're using a loan, typically it does take about 30 days from contract to close. And that really doesn't matter what type of loan it is. That's typically what it takes, is about 30 days here.
Okay, so one other question I do have for you. Do you recommend to sell your current home before you try to purchase your new home?
So that's the question. It's like the chicken and the egg, right?
Yep.
So if you need the finances from selling the home, you need the proceeds of the sale of the house that you're living in, then yes, you should get the house on the market if at all possible. Because when you go to purchase in this area of Northern Virginia, it is very difficult with a home sale contingency, that's what we call it, because a lot of times right now, sellers with multiple offers are getting offers without that contingency. So it does make it a hurdle for your offer to get accepted, regardless of what your financing is. So if you do need to sell to buy, my recommendation is that you get that house on the market right away and you get it as close as possible to the end of the contract where there's a lack of contingencies left. So there's really just getting to the closing table on that sale. And if you can, for the post-occupancy deal as the seller, stay in that house as long as you can. So now you have the opportunity to go and buy. And you may not have even the contingency of the home sale if you've closed and now you have that 60-day post-occupancy rent back. Wow, that's a great question. You can possibly break the lease. The first thing I would do is read your lease agreement and see what the requirements are, because you may have to pay out the entire lease. You may have the ability to have someone backfill your lease, meaning that they could put it on the market for rent, and if they can replace you, you may only have a shorter or a smaller penalty. But if you find that deal that you absolutely cannot give up, I would say consider going for it, because in this market right now, in this area of Northern Virginia, it is really difficult to A, find the deal, and B, win the contract. So it does depend on your financial wherewithal, but the expectation in worst case scenario is be prepared to pay out your lease from contract to all the way to when it ends or closes for that lease agreement. So that means if you just signed on the dotted line and you're only in there for like the first 2 months out of a 12-month contract, I would expect that you may be held to that full year, but see what you can do to break the agreement or how you might be able to work with the owner or the landlord and how you could possibly backfill yourself and replace the finances that they might be missing out on. I hope this video helped answer some of your common questions about buying or selling in the Northern Virginia area. And I was so fortunate to have the beautiful Lindsay Harrington from GBT, Give Back Team, accompany me today. So thanks so much, Lindsay.
Thank you.
I think she should be in more videos. And if you think so too, comment below. I'm Ginger Walker, the team lead of Give Back Team of Coldwell Banker Elite. Thanks so much for watching.